Thank you very much. Thank you very much. You can be seated. Oh, it's good to be back with you. Genesis chapter 4, if you're the type likes to follow along in a Bible, we're going to get to that in a second. Thanks for letting me be a part of your weekend. As always, we've already got it booked in for next time. I can't wait. This is one of my favorite places to come. If this is your first meeting with us, on your way out, you'll see our resource table there. It's taking up half the foyer, and you could pick some things up. Everything's available in 4 formats: CD, DVD, USB, and direct download, okay? Downloads are good. USBs are good. The reason for that is a lot of our hard copy stuff is sold out, right? So downloads are good. We won't run out of those. We won't run out of USBs. If you desperately need a hard copy thing, I can order it for you. It's no problem. For those of you who don't know me, I've had the incredible privilege of being mentored by a pastor with rabbi training, so my stuff sort of comes from that bent. I also have a master's degree in clinical psychology, so be careful what you say to me, because I can read your face and stuff. The reason we carry that stuff around is because that is the way we support our missions in the world. 100% of our profit out there, we give it away, mostly to orphanages in China that take care of mentally handicapped children. We have 3 of those. We have a thing in Cape Town that gets girls out of sex trafficking. The government of Cape Town have actually asked us to expand that to include taking care of the children of those girls. So we're working through the implications of that. What it means is just means it takes more money to help people who cannot give anything in return. And that's what, at the end of the day, that's what Jesus has called us to be. If we're not doing that, what are we doing? So come out there. Let me put something in your hands that'll change the way you look at God. You put something in our hands that helps me feed, clothe, shelter, and educate mentally handicapped children in China, girls caught in sex trafficking. I think it's a pretty good trade. I know that around here, you guys have an incredible chatting culture, and I like that. I think it's great to fellowship afterwards. Here's all I'm asking. If you don't want anything, that's fine. God bless you. But if you know you're going to get something, if you could buy first and then chat, that would be awesome, right? So if you could, that way we're not standing out there for an hour. It's just buy and then chat. It's really, really good. It's a very, very good sequence to do. Buy first, chat later. It'd be awesome. All right, I want to talk to you this morning about being set free from envy, jealousy, and comparison. Now, when I say that, everybody should perk up, because this is going to affect everybody in the room. Envy, jealousy, and comparison are the kinds of things that destroys families, destroys communities, destroys governments, destroys churches, destroys businesses. This kind of thing is bad, 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 and we've all been caught in it. We've all thought we were okay, and then we looked at where somebody else was and went, oh, I don't know if I'm that okay. We've all thought. I thought my biceps were okay. Then I saw Nate Marielke's biceps this morning. I was like, probably ought to do something about this, right? So we all, and it all looks different for all of us, right? So in my line of work, it looks like bigger conference speaking gigs. It looks like book deals, right? And so when someone who you feel like is less intelligent than you gets the book deal and you don't get it, there's something in you that goes, what is going on? I've traveled this world. I have heard far less compelling music than what I've heard Nate Marielke write all around the place. And it's like only a matter of time. Stick with it. But you look at that, you look with it, and you look at that, and you go, wait a minute. Let me say it this way. Maybe in your business, it's the business deal. Maybe in your job, it's the promotion. Maybe in your social sort of values, it's, wait a minute, I've been trying to get pregnant for how long, and she just did. What is going on? Let me say it this way. We've all been guilty of looking right and left instead of in and up to find our value, right? So this is what it looks like, right? I don't remember who said this, but it stuck with me. And that is this. When we look right and left instead of in and up to get our value, we get stuck in the land of bigger, better, fitter, richer, taller, whatever that is. And there's so many problems with that, right? The first problem is that for every richer, there's a poorer. For every fitter, there's a fatter. And for every smarter, there's a dumber. And so for everything over here, there's an but there's also an over there. So if you look right, you feel inferior. If you look left, you feel superior. And nothing helps. The other big problem with being stuck in the land of is that for every there's always an est. So let's say you get Will you ever be est? No. Let's take richer, for instance. Let's say that you live in Rochester area of Michigan and you have a moderate 3-bedroom, 2-bath house with 9-foot ceilings, which, by the way, puts you in the richest 1% of the entire world, okay? And you're perfectly content with these 9-foot ceilings, 3-bedroom, 2-bath, 9-foot ceilings, and then you get invited to someone's house who's richer than you. And you walk into their house and they have 12-foot ceilings. And in a house, 3 foot of ceiling space is a lot. And you walk in and you're like mesmerized. You're like, whoa, flip. You're only there 3 hours. And then you go back to the house that you were perfectly fine in 3 hours ago, and you're like all constricted, you're ducking, you're like, man, right? And you're like, no, not putting up with this. No one should have to live with this squalor. I'm going to dedicate my life to get richer. And then let's say you do. And you afford the 12-foot ceilings. As soon as you afford the 12-foot ceilings, you're now going to hang out with people who have 14-foot ceilings. You buy the 20-foot boat, you're going to meet someone with a 26-foot boat. So you buy a 28-foot boat, then you meet someone with a 31-foot boat. This is how it works. The more you get in the land of Ur, the more you realize that no matter how far down the land of Ur you go, you'll never be est. Jesus called it the deceitfulness of wealth. Right. The thing that chokes the life right out of you. See, the problem with the land of Ur is that there's Urs on both sides. The problem with the land of Ur is that for every Ur, there's always an S. The biggest problem in the land of Ur is it creates an environment conducive to envy, and that's where we start destroying ourselves. Right. Envy, jealousy, comparison destroys people's lives. Absolutely. And Jesus wants you to be set free from it. And I want to talk to you a little bit about my journey, and I want to talk to you about how to be set free from that. If you'll hang in there with me, 40 minutes or so, I promise you we'll give you the tools to do this. We'll give you something for your head, for your hand, and for your heart. And we're going to laugh a whole lot. This is Genesis chapter 4, if you could bring that up. This envy is so common to man. It literally presents itself in literally the first biblical narrative about anyone trying to relate to somebody. Now, this is a very common biblical narrative because if you went to Sunday school, you teach kids this early in age, primarily because it's early in the Bible and it has a very good moral. Don't kill your brother, right? But you have all this going on, right? Watch this. It says, and Adam made love to his wife Eve, and she became pregnant and gave birth to Cain. She said, with the help of the Lord, I brought forth a man. And later she gave birth to his brother Abel. Now, Abel kept the flocks and Cain worked the soil. Obviously, the Bible skips a lot of details, right? She gives birth, they're farming, right? Obviously, the Bible was put together by a group of men, right? Because women would have more questions than that. They're like, wait a minute. Were they cute? What were they wearing? No. In the course of time, Cain brought some of the fruits of the ground, as an offering to the Lord. So Cain brings his offering of some of the fruits of the ground. But Abel also brought an offering, but his offering was the fat portions from some of the firstborn of his flocks. There's two different offerings. One brings some of the fruit of the ground. One brings the first portions of the fat portions of the firstborn of his flock. And the Lord looked with favor on Abel's offering, but on Cain and his offering, he did not look with favor. Well, so this is such a weird passage, because what are we supposed to presume? That God prefers meat over vegetables? You know, what's going on here? And actually, yeah. We're Michigan, we're carnivores. Yeah, all right. Let rednecks reign. All right, so they say. And later in Leviticus, it actually says that vegetables are an acceptable offering if you're a farmer. That makes total sense. I mean, at this time in history, this should be obvious. There was no written record as to what God expects. No one knew anything. How could God possibly be mad at someone for bringing the wrong thing when nothing was written down about what to bring. The issue is not the content of the offering. The issue was the place of the heart. You got one guy going, I'll give some of the fruit of the ground. You got another guy going, I'm going to give the first portions from the best portions from my flock. And this was an earliest offering in this culture. It was called a Terumah Offering, which had nothing to do with sin. It had nothing to do with blood. It had nothing to do with that. It had to do with giving the first portion back to your spiritual covering, which in this case would have been their father. So God looks with favor on the guy going, I'm going to give the first portions from the fat portions from the firstborn, but he doesn't look with favor on the guy giving, I'm just going to give some of the fruit of the ground. So Cain was angry, and his face was downcast. And we understand that. Sometimes it's all over your face. Now watch what happens here. Then the Lord said to Cain, watch what God does. Then the Lord said to Cain, why are you angry, and why is your face downcast? I want you to notice, when God confronts Cain, he does not confront his offering. How could you? There was nothing written down about what to give. You can't confront something like that. He doesn't confront his offering. He confronts his mood, his attitude, his temperament. He essentially comes in and says, what's going on with your face? I don't like this. What's happening with your face? Now, if you're a parent or a leader or a teacher or something, especially teenagers, you understand this. There's been times where your teenager walks in the room, and we would say it this way, it's written all over there. You've lived this life, right? And out of compassion, what do? You go, hey. What's going on with you? What's the matter? What do they always say first? And everything in you wants to go, nothing really? Then tell your face that, right? Because if what I'm seeing on your face is going on in your heart, there's a problem. I can't see your heart, but I can see your face. And if your face is indicative of your heart, there's a problem. That's what God does here. Cain, what's the matter? Nothing. Tell your face that. Your face is telling me there's a problem. And Cain, and he switches. This passage switches very quickly from offerings and generosity to heart. Wait a minute. Cain, if what I'm seeing on your face is what I think it is, this is not something you can play around with. This is not innocuous. This is something that will destroy you, bro. You've got to sort this. Watch what he says. If you do what is right, will you not be accepted? But if you do not do what is right, watch what he says. Sin is crouching at the door, and it desires to have you. This is an ancient Near Eastern metaphor to wild animals being a predator to you. In other words, this envy and jealousy I'm seeing, Cain, is not something you could just let go. It is going to eat you. This is not innocuous, but you must rule over it. So God goes sort of Dr. Phil here, and he says, listen, here's the deal. Not only can you rule over it, you've got to get this sorted out. Now, if you know the story, you know he doesn't sort it out, and it ends tragically. Watch this. So Cain said to his brother Abel, let's go out to the field. And while they were in the field, Cain attacked his brother Abel and killed him. Now this leads to the problem of envy. Let's say it this way. Next slide. Envy and comparison lead us to violence, and that's the problem. The reason envy destroys things is here's the psychology of envy. Envy promises something it can't deliver, and here's what it says. If you hurt them, you'll get what you want out of them. So this is what it says. If they have something you want, if you cause them harm, suddenly, magically, you will get what you need. That is not true. It promises something it can't deliver. Envy, and here's the problem with envy. What you'll find is that when envy gets involved, normally reasonable people rationalize violent behavior because of envy's promise. And envy promises, if you cause them harm, you'll get it back. And you won't. It never works. Let me tell you what I mean, right? Somewhere around here, there's a high school. And at that high school, there's a whole heaping load of teenagers. And in a whole heaping load of teenagers, at least once a year, one guy beats up another guy over a girl. You've lived this life. Here's how it works. Guy number one is dating said girl. Guy number two swoops in and steals said girl away, presumably with his six-pack of abs. Girl goes with guy number two. Guy number one gets jealous and envious, and what does guy number one do? Guy number one starts a fight and beats up guy number two. Now, is his goal to beat up guy number two? No. His goal is to re-win the affections of the girl. Now, is that going to work? Never. But envy says it will. Envy says, hey, he took your girlfriend. If you beat him up, she'll like you again. Is that true? Never. So guy number one goes over. He believes envy's lie. He beats up guy number two, hoping to win her affections back. Here's the thing. When you beat someone up, is suddenly the girl reattracted to you? Never. And if she is, leave her. She's Looney Tunes, okay? No way. Girls are not supposed to be attracted to violent behavior like that. But this normally reasonable person says, you know what? I think this will work. Why? Because envy is very difficult to deal with because it promises something it can't deliver. Envy will tell you if you cause them harm, suddenly you'll get what they have. Envy, you see this in Christian circles. When certain people start to get certain speaking gigs instead of other people, sometimes the other people start to spread rumors about the people getting the gigs. And the belief is that if I harm their character enough, then maybe I'll get the gig. Never works. Come on. This happens in your job. If you're a business owner and you have 10 employees and you give one of them a promotion, and 7 of the other 9 think they deserve it, what will happen is those other 7 will start backbiting the one that got it. And here's the envy lie. Envy says, if you convince the boss that they're not the right choice, then that'll suddenly make you the right choice. Never. Envy is very difficult to deal with because it is a compelling liar. And that lie is if you cause them harm, you will get what you think you deserve from this situation. And that is almost never true. And here's what happens with that. Normally reasonable people, if you ever see someone that in your life experience with them, they've been normally reasonable, and you see them rationalizing violent behavior, trust me, somewhere underneath the face and the surface is envy, jealousy, and comparison. Because when we think someone else has something better, it leads us to envy and violence. And this happens gradually. And sin is crouching at the door, desiring to destroy us. This is true of my life. I've had it happen to me. In my life, I've had people start rumors. If I had done 10% of the stuff I've heard I've done, I would be some flippin' legend. You cannot believe it. I've had it done to me. You've had it done to you. Have you ever had friends at work and then suddenly the ones you thought were your friends, they're suddenly turning against you and you can't think of what you did? And then when you can't think of what you did, you think, oh, wait a minute, I got the promotion? It's that. I've had it happen to me. You've had it happen to you. And let's be honest, we've done it. We've participated in gossip and slander and, hey, you might want to be careful with that person. We've done little backbiting things. We've rationalized being violent and slanderous towards somebody. And the real issue is not that we're bad people. The real issue is that for a brief moment, we believed envy's lie. And envy lies, it says, if you hurt them, you'll get what you think you want out of the situation. It's true of my life, it's true of your life. You've done it. I've done it. We've all done this thing. We've all been a part of this thing. It's all over the biblical narrative. Let me just show you a few examples of this. So next slide. So you got this one time where God tells Abraham, you're going to have a kid. And evidently, Sarah was way past menopause, right? So she can't really have a kid. And so there's all of the stuff. And Sarah goes, I don't believe I can have a kid. I'm way past menopause. I think God meant for you to sleep with Hagar and have a kid with her, right? So Abraham sleeps with Hagar. And look, let's keep Abraham okay, right? It was Sarah's idea, right? Yes, it was bad, but it was Sarah's idea. And I'm sure Abraham was under a lot of duress. Like, what? Sleep with a younger, prettier woman? No. Oh, no, please, don't make me. Please, variety? No way, please. But he does. And so he ends up sleeping with Hagar, and he gets her pregnant. And if you know the story, subsequent to Hagar having Ishmael, Sarah then gets pregnant. She's like, oh, wow. And then she realizes in the pregnancy, no matter what I do, I'm never going to be the firstborn's mom. Never. And in an act of envy and violence, what does she do? She banishes a woman into the ancient Near Eastern wilderness. That is violent. And here's the lie. Okay, she banishes her. Is suddenly she the firstborn's mom? No. Jacob tricks Esau out of his entire birthright. In the same family, you got a guy named Joseph. Jacob has 12 children. He's not a very good father. It says he loved one more than the rest of them. Buys him a special coat, bad parenting. I'm going to buy one of my sons a coat, none of you. Now, let's be honest. Let's be honest. Joseph doesn't help his cause. Joseph does things like, hey, I'm going to call a family meeting. He calls a family meeting. He says, hey, guys, I've had a vision from God, and in my vision, I'm standing and you're bowing. And they're going to kill him. Why? Because no one likes a vision where you're standing and they're bowing. Joseph doesn't help his cause. So what they do, 11 normally reasonable people sell their brother into ancient Near Eastern slavery. Why? Because of envy. And here was the lie. The lie was, if we get rid of Joseph, our father will love us more. Is that true? No, it just made the father live in grief. Saul tries to skewer David with a javelin because he got popular. And the lie was, hey, if I skewer David, if I put this javelin through him, I'll suddenly regain his popularity. He missed, but would that have been true? No, you martyr someone, you make them more popular. Envy is hard to deal with because it promises something it can't deliver. It says, if you do harm, you will get what you want. And that is never true. Once you start violating the principle of honor, you will not have a flow of what you want to your life. You can never arrive where you want to arrive through the back and hurting someone else. At some point, you will eat that. Amen. And that's what envy does. It's hard to deal with. So let's have a working definition of what we're talking about here. Next slide. So envy is desiring some quality, status, power, success, or happiness that another person has. I see, hey, they got that deal, they got that business, they got that client, they got that promotion. I see what they got, and I want it. But envy does something really more destructive than that. Envy desires them to fail or suffer because of it. Envy is that dark side that's in all of us that secretly celebrates when someone else who has more than us is going through something. It's that part of us that when we hear a rumor that some big person is going through strife, we can't resist Googling it so we can read about it. We can't help ourselves. It's that dark side of us that would secretly celebrate if they went through some pain because it seems like no matter what they do, life works out for them. It's that. It's dark. Envy is not about the object. Envy is about the person. And that's where it gets very, very, very destructive. It's promising something it can't deliver, and it lets us secretly celebrate when someone else is suffering. Let's say it this way. Next slide. Envy is widespread because it's the easiest to hide and the hardest to admit. Envy's easy to hide, and it's very hard to admit. Years ago, the church gave us the 7 deadly sins, and here's what they said. In building a Christ-centered community, there are 7 habits of the heart that pose the most danger to building a Christ-centered community. And of course, envy is one of them. And out of the 7 deadly sins, envy is the one that's the easiest to hide, the hardest to admit. Let me explain what I mean by that, okay? If you have a small group of people, right, and you should, a small group. This should not be on Facebook or something. I'm talking about 3 or 4 people who regularly participate in your redemptive process. If you don't have that, darkness is overtaking you. That's another message for another time. But if you have 3 or 4 small group people that you have, that you keep your heart clean, and so you just get everything out in the open. If you came into that small group and said, guys, listen, here's the, okay? I've got something dirty in my heart before God, and I need to get this out in the open, and let's pray about it because I don't want this to overtake me. If you say, you know what, guys, this week I had a lust problem. I did some lusting this week, and I'm telling you, I don't want this to overtake me. I want to get it out in the open. No one's going to judge you for that. No one. No one's going to think less of you. Matter of fact, they would say, hey, thank you for sharing. I'm so glad you feel, that you're safe enough to share. Let's pray about this thing. Let's get that out in the light. That's how they would respond to that, right? If your issue is gluttony, no one's going to be surprised, right? No one's going to be like, what, you? Gluttony? No way, right? Your blood type's gravy. Of course your issue's right? So no one's going to be surprised. And no one's going to judge you for that. Why? Because we live in America, and gluttony's okay. It's fine, right? Even though it's strictly forbidden in Scripture, yeah, it's fine. No whatever, right? But what would they say? They'd say, well, thank you for sharing that. I'm so glad that's out in the open. Let's deal with that. Like if your issue's pride, no one's going to judge you for that, right? They're going to be like, hey, welcome to the human race. Let's deal with this. Let's get that. But if you said to that same group of people, guys, whoa, got something. This thing's dirty in my heart, man. I tell you, I got to tell you, I got to get this out because I'm struggling with envy. Well, there's something creepy about envy, right? Like as soon as you say that, people are like, oh, envy. Oh, you go sit at the children's table. What are you doing? Right? Why? Because envy makes us admit out loud that we feel inferior. So when we admit out loud we feel inferior, it's just a whole lot easier to hide it. And when we hide it and don't admit it, it grows and grows and grows, and it keeps telling the lie. Do violence, you'll get what you want. Do violence, you'll get what you want. Why is envy hard to deal with? It promises something it can't deliver, and it's easy to hide, and it's hard to admit. Let me add to that. It's driven from everywhere. Envy's hard to deal with because it's literally driven from everywhere, especially now. You know what the biggest driver of envy is? Facebook, social media, right? Now, let me tell you what Facebook is, okay? Facebook is a powerful marketing tool that should be used properly. But at its most rudimentary level, let me tell you what Facebook is. Facebook is voyeurism for people's best side, okay? So let me tell you what I mean. So if you're thinking right now, I wonder how Johnny's doing from high school. I wonder what's going on with Johnny. I wonder what's happening with Johnny. What would you do? You'd go home and you get on the internet, because you would never do this while someone's talking, because that would be rude, right? So you go home. You get on the internet and you go to what? You go to Facebook and you Facebook search Johnny. Now somehow Facebook knows which Johnny in the world you're talking about. Let's give them that, right? So there he is. Out of all the Johnnies in the world, there's the Johnny you were thinking of, right? So then you click on Johnny's Facebook profile. Once his profile comes up, what do? Do you read his post? No. What do? You look at the photos. Exactly. We've all, see, we got this, right? So you look at the pictures. And the pictures, you're like, I wonder, this is what we're asking. I wonder how Johnny's doing. And we think we're going to find out how Johnny's doing by looking at his pictures, right? Picture number 1, Johnny standing in front of a brand spanking new BMW 7 Series. The post underneath it says, hey, everybody, look at my new ride, right? But no one posts the car payment. Right? Right? Here's what the post should say. Hey, everybody, look what I just did. I bought something I can't afford with money I don't have to impress people I don't like. I'm paying 8% interest on something losing 50% of its value. I'm going to be broke for years because of this. Nope. Look at my new ride. Second post. Hey, everybody, look at my new pad. 12-foot ceilings. 12-foot ceiling. Right? No one posts the mortgage payment. No one posts the pressure they just signed up for. No one posts that. Next post. Hey, everybody, check out my 2-year-old twins. Now, when people post things on Facebook with 2-year-old twins, what are they doing? Sleeping. Eating. Something's in their mouth, right? Maybe playing. No one posts the 2 a.m. scream. Get up! I lost my passy. This life is so fun. No, just look at my 2-year-old twins, right? Next post, he's out at a nice-ish restaurant, and the post says, celebrating 10 years with my sugar plum. And you know and I know when we read something like that, everything in us goes, la. Why? Because you know and I know people post date night, not fight night. Right? You're thinking, man, Johnny's life's awesome. I'd love the free BMW, the cry-free twins, the house that doesn't put me under any pressure, and the perfect marriage. The problem with that is it ain't real. Is Facebook real? Facebook's so powerful, it's actually responsible for a new social phenomenon called meta-envy. Literally envy about envy. Let me tell you what I mean by that. I turned 40 this year, right? I know, I went gray very early, but anyway, I turned 40 this year, and it was obvious, too. I've always been a night owl. Like, I've always been a guy that stays up late and sort of sleeps in. I've always been a night owl. But then I turned 40, and something weird happened, right? I turned 40, and the next night, I wanted to go to bed early. It was weird, right? It was like, oh, it's 9:40. I should probably be turning in here, right? It's weird. So in turning 40, I'm no longer a young adult, right? Now, the truth is I haven't been a young adult for years, but at 40, you have to admit it. I'm no longer a young adult. And it's obvious I'm not a young adult because when I hang out with young adults think about doing things that I would never consider doing, right? So if you're here today and you're under the age of 24, I need you to listen to me right now, okay? If you're under the age of 24, listen to me right now. Trust me, I'm speaking for the whole room. Everybody has attention right here, okay? If you're under the age of 24, I want you to listen to me right now. Ready? No one gives a crap what you ate for dinner. Right? Right? the mind of a 23-year-old, I think the whole world wants to see a picture of my burrito. Right? And then the person sitting across from him is like, oh, you took a picture of your burrito, my chicken salad. And then there's this unspoken competition about who's going to get the most likes about stuff no one cares about. Why is envy hard to deal with? It promises something it can't deliver. It says, do violence, you'll get it. No. It's easy to hide, hard to admit, so it festers. It's driven from everywhere. No one is short on reminders of who has more than us. No one. You realize if you're in this room, you're likely in the richest 1% of the whole world. But the TV media in America will try to make you convinced your life is not very good. It's driven from everywhere. It's also the revelation about our darkest side. This is that dark side of us that would secretly underneath our breath celebrate. Let me illustrate. Look, men and women deal with envy the same, but it looks different, okay? So I'm going to tell you an illustration with women. I will do men in a second. I wouldn't do one without the other because I don't want to turn half the room against me, but this is, but every woman in this room will understand what I'm talking about, okay? The second most awkward day in a woman's life is the first day of 7th grade, right? That first day back at junior high. Here's why. You just want to fit in, and here's what happened, right? Everybody finishes 6th grade, and everybody's little girls, right? And then you have a 12-week break, and you come back for 7th grade, and some have become women, and some haven't. Some have started puberty, some haven't. And the ones that haven't started puberty, they're just hoping to God it doesn't happen in math class. And there's all this stuff, right? Because you just want to fit in, right? So you come back from 6th grade into 7th grade, and you girls, every girl in this room, I don't care how old you are, you'll remember this. Every 7th grade class, always coming out of summer, has that one girl. And you know what happened to that one girl? That one girl developed before everybody else. And when I say she developed, holy smokes, right? She developed. She is not just a woman, she's a woman. And it seems like every day you come back to class, she's developed more. And what happens to that girl? She becomes the most hated girl in the whole school. Why? What did she do? Nothing. She developed early. She had no control over that. And what's happening? What's happening to that girl? Well, she's getting all the attention, right? Like all the guys, like the junior high dance, she's got 40 invitations, right? And you're flat out getting your second cousin to take you, right? It's like, right? And you're nice, everybody's nice to her face, but in your heart, you're like, oh, I hate that girl, I hate that guy. And at night, you're praying to God, you're like, please, God, please, God, please, God, come on, please, God, please, God. Come on. And it's like, what? And this girl's getting more and more pretty and more popular and more famous. You're like, oh, man. Here's what happens. That envy sticks. See, these girls are laughing. They know this is true. See, that envy sticks. What happens is that envy sticks, right? 20 years later, 25 years later, you're like 40 years old, right? You haven't seen her since junior high. You haven't seen her, right? And you're in the grocery store, right? So you're coming around in the grocery store, and you look up, and there she is, right? And you're like, hey, you? And you look up, and she's like 80 pounds overweight, and her hair is all scraggly, and nothing's in the right place, and she didn't even bother not to wear sweatpants outside, and you smile on the outside, but on the inside, you're like, yes. You peaked in high school. See, that's dark stuff. That's that side of us that once somebody gets in our crawl that they have something better than us, we secretly, we'd never admit it, but we secretly love it to see them fail. Why is envy hard to deal with? It promises something it can't deliver. Do violence, you'll get what you want. It's easy to hide, hard to admit. It festers. It's driven from everywhere. It's also complicated. Envy has a lot of different sort of factors to it. Let me show you a few. Next slide. So this is like the comparison trap pecking order, right? So you can find this anywhere. Like first, there's physical envy, right? This is where we start noticing who's taller, who's shorter, who's fitter, who's thinner, who's this, who's that, who's that. This starts about age 6 and ends at death. Like we never quit noticing. And then there's meta envy about that, literally envy about how we used to look, right? So where we look in the mirror. Like let me tell you something about men, okay? Here's the. Let me tell you something about every man in this room, okay? Every man in this room, every single man in this room does this, right? If they tell you they don't do this, they're lying, right? All right? Every man in this room does this. If they tell you they don't, they're lying. I know. There's a couple guys in the back going, Shane, no. It's trust me, right? So here's what happens. And it would happen in Michigan only in the warmer months, all right? Because it's flipping cold in Michigan. But here's what happens, right? When men get up in the morning in the warmer months, they could tend to do their morning ritual before they put a shirt on, which quite frankly is disgusting because everybody's better looking with a shirt on, right? Now, men will only do this if they don't think you're watching. If they think you're watching, they'll never, ever do this because it's not a great spectator sport, okay? But here's the thing. If they don't think you're watching, they will do this. They will do this, right? They'll brush their teeth, they'll shave, they'll splash their face, they'll do all that. And if you're watching a man secretly, where if he knows you're watching, he's not going to do this. Once he's done with his morning ritual, he will back away from that mirror, and before he walks away, he is going to flex, right? So he's going to do this, right? He's going to... All right, now, right? Now, yep, you know it too. Here's the thing. Let me tell you what he's thinking. Okay? When a man flexes that early in the morning, here's what he's thinking. You know what? In a completely fasted, totally dehydrated state, I sort of got it going on. That's what he's thinking. Right? That's what he's thinking. Now, you men, listen to me. This is very important. You men, listen to me. Now, when you flex in the mirror, when no one else is watching, don't do it when anybody's watching, but when you flex in the mirror, when no one else is watching, it's very important that when you turn away from the mirror, you turn away in the correct sequence. Very important, right? Right? And so here's the correct sequence, head first, body second, always, okay? So when you're flexing, right, make sure you turn your head first and then turn your body away, because here's the problem, right? If you're ever flexing in the mirror and you accidentally turn your body first, you're going to get a glimpse of your side profile, and that is totally different, right? That is like, that there is like, oh my goodness, right? This happened to me once, right? So I was like doing my morning, no one's watching, right? And I'm like flexing, I'm like, you know what? In completely fasted, totally dehydrated state, I sort of got it going on. And then I turned my body first, and I caught my side profile. So it was like, hey, oh my God, right? Right? It was like this. And it made me so insecure. Like 3 hours later, I met this girl for the first time. And I know she thought I was a lunatic because I was doing everything I could do to make sure she never saw my side profile. So no matter where we moved, I was like, hey, how's it going? She never called back. Then, of course, we have talent and success without considering the price they paid. So we look at people who are successful. We're like, I'd love that life. We have no consideration for what they've done or what they've put up with or what they've sacrificed to get there. I know this might surprise you, but because I stand on stages, sometimes people think they can ask me personal questions, okay? You can't. That's rude, okay? But sometimes they think they can. And sometimes they say really, like, potentially hurtful things, right? So they'll say, like, Shane, why aren't you married, right? They don't even know me, right? They don't even know anything about me, right? Why am I not married? How stupid of a question is that? Like, who would marry me? Like, I'm in the same place 3 days at a time. Like, what's my pickup line to a girl? Hey, see you in a year? In 362 days, baby, I'm coming back. Like, no, that's not attractive at all. And I can't be known as the guest preacher that takes women out on dates, right? That's ridiculous, right? You just can't do that. What they do is they look at my life and they go, somebody's told me before, they've said, hey, I wish I had your life. Really? Like, I left my house January 7th. I wasn't back till October 25th. I was home for a day and a half and I came here. Then I'm back for 2 days, then I go to Baltimore. After Baltimore, I go to the West Coast for all that out there for 3 weeks. Then I come back after Thanksgiving. And I'm home 3 days in the middle of the week for the entire month of December. Then January 7th, I leave again. People look at what you have and they go, oh, but they don't consider what that might have cost somebody. Yeah. Then, of course, there's education and social circles, you know. Like as I do some bigger conferences, you know, in bigger conferences, they have green rooms, which is just terrible, right? Yeah. So you have green rooms. And in the real big conferences, they not only have a green room, they have a VIP green room inside the other green room. Like, there's a green room, and then there's like, okay, only the really, really special people are in there, right? And then if you're not careful, you look at that and go, why am I not allowed in there? I just saw that guy walk in there, and I know I'm smarter than him. I know I got more to offer, right? And you get all this. Education. Look, I have a lot of education. I do. I've got a lot of letters behind my name, and that's great. And if you want education, I want you to have a lot of it, right? But if you're not enough without it, you'll never be enough with it, right? Like more letters ain't going to make you feel better about yourself. Being invited in there, if you're not enough, however you feel about yourself before you're invited in there, that's how you're going to feel about yourself in there. It's not going to help. If you want a BMW, I hope you get it. I do. But if you're not enough without it, you'll never be enough with it, right? Look, if you want to be married, I hope you get married. Like a good spouse is an awesome thing to have. Now, you marry the wrong person, you'll pray for a comet to come to earth to bring you sweet relief from them. But But a good spouse is a great thing to have. But I can tell you this, if you're not enough without it, you'll never be enough with it. There's no such thing as a happy marriage that was forged between two miserable single people. Man, we hated our life, but marriage fixed everything. No way. No way. And then it's even in micro levels like airline miles and stuff, you know. Yeah. Like I fly, I would think more than most people in the room, and so I get like there's like, you know, silver, gold, platinum, executive platinum. There's like all this, and then the higher up you get, like the more special rooms they have for you at the airport, right? And you're like, but here's the bigger thing. The rooms aren't the thing. The thing is, if you're high enough, if there's an empty seat in first class, you get it, right? And there's this thing, right? There's one time I was flying from New York to Johannesburg. Now listen, that's 16 hours in an aircraft. If there's ever a flight to be upgraded on, it's that one. So I'm checking in, right? And they said, Mr. Willard, unfortunately, this flight's overbooked. Now that's terrible if you're flying economy, because that means there's no chance of somebody not being next to you, and you could be sitting next to a giant. And if you've flown economy long haul, all of us have sat there, and as people were coming down the aisle, you're going, please God, no, please God, no, please God, no. Please God, no. And then, oh, please God, yes. Please, right? We've done that, right? Right? So what they said, sir, you have the top status on this entire aircraft. You are the #1 rated flyer on the whole aircraft, so we would like to move you to business. I'm like, business? That's where you get a bed, right? Here's the thing, right? So they moved me to business, right? So I'm up there, and what they do is they board business class first. Now, if you've ever flown business class, what is amazing to me, is how many people an aircraft can hold. Like you're in business, and it feels like 700 people have walked by you, and you're thinking, how many people are back there? The thing you don't understand, I mean, if you've been on aircraft, there's one aisle, right? The thing I don't understand is why the air hostess stands there, and when you're coming in, she looks at your thing, she goes right down there. Like, where else are you gonna go? Like, oh, thank you. I didn't ever figure that one out, right? And she does that 200 times. Oh, sir, welcome. Right down there is your seat. It's down there somewhere. I don't get it. Anyway, so you're sitting there on the aircraft, and all like the underlings are now walking by you, right? And the thing is, I was just in economy, like 15 minutes before. Now I'm in business. These people are walking by, you know? And I couldn't help myself. I thought in my heart, schmucks, right? Right? And if you're flying economy and you're walking through business, you're like, oh man, these guys, what's up with this? You know, this is what happens. It's in parenting. We do violence on our children because they don't measure up to other children, right? Let me help you moms, okay? Every mom in the world, I think, thinks their kid's a genius. Let me help you. They're not. They're just normal kids, right? And you could see this big time on Facebook as well. Like somebody showed me a video of this on Facebook. It was hilarious. It was this mom, and she posted this thing. She posted this thing on Facebook. She said, hey, everybody, check out my little genius. Check out how smart he is, right? So there's this little kid. He was still in diapers but could walk around. I'm guessing, I don't know, too. Anyway, he's standing in front of her, and she had this flashcard. The flashcard had a big red B on it, you know, big red B. And she was obviously going to try to get him to say B. So she said, hey, buddy, what's this? That kid looked at her and went, and she went, that's right, B, right? And you're going, wait a minute. No one heard him say B except you. And let's just all admit something, okay? Let's just all admit something with parents, right? Everybody hates 6-year-old birthday parties, right? And here's the reason why, right? You can't leave your kid. You can't leave 46-year-olds and 1 adult. It's like irresponsible. And when that happens, who gets roped into staying? Always. It's always the mom, right? Because honestly, let's just be honest, in a room of 46-year-olds, the one lone dad who got roped into that, it's a bit creepy. It's like, sir, we got this. We'll call you when this is over, right? It's like, right? So this is what happens. So all the moms standing there, and then the party starts taking form, and they start playing games. When the party starts taking form and they start playing games, what do the moms do? They congregate, and they chat, right? And here's all it takes. 4 moms. Here's all it takes. All it takes is one mom commenting on how smart her kid is. That's all it takes. It could be something innocuous like, I'm so proud of Susie. She's really nailed the math this year. That math homework this year, man, she really nailed it. She's 6. This is hardly NASA, right? So once she says that, well, now the other moms have to come to the defense of the intelligence of their kids. So the next mom's like, oh yeah, my kid's done with his homework for the whole week. That's right. And then the next mom says something even more ridiculous, right? It's even more ridiculous. Here's the thing. Let me help you, okay? In the world we live in right now, I don't care how smart your 6-year-old is. There's already a Chinese kid in the corner who's figured out the Pythagorean theorem, right? And how it's going to affect how he puts up his bunk beds, right? It doesn't matter. So in the panic of that moment, you're the mom and you're like, oh my goodness, where's my kid? And you're looking around and your kid's the one kid in the whole party who's found the mop bucket, put it on its head, and he's beating his head against the wall, right? And you're like, and the other moms are like, hey, who's the bucket-headed kid? You're like, I don't know. And we're doing violence to our children because they don't measure up to the other children. Wait a minute, let your kids be kids. You only got them for a little bit of time. Why do violence on them? Because they're not measuring up. We're just promoting envy. Envy's hard to deal with. Easy to hide, hard to admit. Promise is something they can't deliver. Driven from everywhere, and it's complicated. Then, of course, next slide, there's spiritual envy. Next slide. Like, have you ever heard someone speak, and everything they said was obvious, but it was only obvious after they said it, right? And you're like, why didn't I think of that? Why can't I see that in the Bible? Or leadership. Like, you ever see someone that no matter what they do, their leadership works out? Like, there's this guy in Australia, you probably heard of him. His name's Brian Houston, right? Runs Hillsong. No matter what they touch, it turns to gold. It doesn't matter. Hillsong touches it, it turns to gold. And you're thinking, what the heck? I love God. I work hard. I study. What is it with these guys? You could tranquilize people like Brian Houston and Stephen Furtick and Andy Stanley. You could tranquilize them, drop them naked in the middle of Afghanistan, and they'd have a church of 20,000 by December, right? And you're going, what the heck is happening here? And then envy gets in there. Some of the most nasty, violent verbal attacks come from that. Websites dedicated to destroying people these guys have forgotten more about what they've done for God than most of us will ever do. And there's people trying to hurt them. Why? Because envy. Envy. The live envy says, if you hurt those guys, like if I hurt Brian Houston, I'll get Hillsong. No, it won't. And if I was given Hillsong tomorrow, in 6 months, it would be dead because it ain't on my life to run it.
Right. Yeah. Come on.
Then of course, next slide. Then there's lifestyle envy. You know, there are TV shows dedicated to showing you how other people live. 25 years ago, it was Lifestyles of the Rich and Famous. You know, now it's MTV Cribs. You know, where they show you Shaquille O'Neal's house. Shaquille O'Neal, here's his house, 44,000 square feet, 14 bedrooms, 13-car garage, and the intimation underneath it is, if only you worked a little harder, maybe you. No. He's the second greatest center to ever play the game of basketball. He's 7'2". He's 340 pounds. He has a 44-inch vertical leap and 9% body fat. Not going to be you. And would you want it to be you? You really want a 44,000 square foot house? Who would clean it? There'd be rooms you never walked in. If you were home alone at night, you'd hear every noise ever. And the pressure to protect all that. Oh, no. Then there's workplace envy, believing the myth that the next place will have less envy. People leave churches over things like this. People leave a church, I say, why'd you leave? Man, that place is political. You wouldn't believe it. They promoted this person. I'm better than them. They promoted them. It's all this stuff. It's just political. I'm going to a place with less politics. Really? You're going to go to a place with no people? No passions, no personalities, no agendas? You're going to be a monk? What are you going to do? See, there's all of this stuff. Why is envy hard to deal with? Promises something it can't deliver. Easy to hide, hard to admit. Driven from everywhere and complicated. You might be thinking, Shane, this sermon was mildly entertaining. And you know what? I openly admit that at times I've been stuck in the land of Ur. I admit it. I admit it. You've not told us one thing about how to do it. What do we do with that? I'm glad you asked. Here we go. 2 things. 2 things for your heart and 2 things for your hands. 2 things for your heart and 2 things for your hands. Let me tell you what the cure for envy is not, and that is prayer. I believe in prayer, but I could pray for you till Jesus comes back. Probably not going to help you. There's some very practical things about envy. There's some practical things you can do to overcome envy. 2 things are in your heart, 2 things are for your hands. Next one, for your heart. 1, we have to realize that envy is rooted in how we see ourselves, never about what the other person has, okay? So even if you got what you think you wanted, you would feel no better about yourself. And we have to come to that deep conviction that even if I got that gig, even if I got that book deal, even if I got that music contract, even if I got that business client, even if I got that promotion, whatever that is, that car, that wife, that husband, that house, those kids, even if you have those things, you would feel no better about yourself because envy is rooted in how you see yourself, never in what someone else has. Amen. 2, the simplest gospel message is that you were loved and valued before you did anything to realize your potential, okay? So it has nothing to do with your value. We need to look in and up, not right and left. Those are the 2 thoughts for your heart. It's envy's rooted in how you see yourself, not what they have. And you were loved and valued before you did anything. Now for your hands, practical things you could do every single day. First, gratitude for what is present in our now will break the power of envy. This is what breaks the power of envy, okay? And I want to speak slowly here because I want you to clearly understand what I'm talking about. Because on the surface, this seems to throw itself in the face of faith culture. Because faith culture says, we need to call things that are not as though they are. We need to believe God for the next level. We need to keep dreaming, keep moving, keep going. Amen. If you're going to lead an organization or a business or a family, you need to be believing God for what's next. And you need to keep doing that. But that will not help envy. What will help envy, and I'm going to say it in a way we can all remember, 10 times a day for 10 seconds. 10 times a day for 10 seconds. 10 times a day for 10 seconds. 10 by 10, a little over a minute and a half a day. Here's what you do. You stop and you express authentic gratitude for what's in your now. Let me say it this way. If God never did one more thing for your life, wouldn't your life be pretty good? Like if you woke up tomorrow with amnesia, no idea how you got where you got, and Jesus was at the foot of your bed and he described your life right now with no context, wouldn't you be pretty excited? Like that would be, I've got a wife with this much good and this much bad. I got a husband with this much good and this much bad. I got kids that love me. I've got a job. I've got a calling. I've got gifts. I've got talents. I've got all 5 of my senses. This is my life. I live in America, one of the greatest nations on earth, with motor cars and paved roads and stores that prepackage food for me. I got clean water on tap, machines that do washing, another machine that does drying. I don't have to fear my children being kidnapped by warlords and being tortured for our faith. Are you kidding? This is my life. If God never did one more thing for any of us, really, our life would be really, really good. So what if 10 times a day for 10 seconds we stopped and we're thankful for if God never did one more thing, this is what I'm thankful for in my now. Let me illustrate that in front of everybody just so you know what I mean. And you could do it your way. This is how I do it. 10 times a day I try to stop and do this, some version of this. Lord, thanks for my hands. Man, they work. It's awesome. If they didn't, I would miss them. My elbow works. That's amazing. Because if my elbow was locked, that would make life hard. Couldn't get in and out of stuff. I could feel my feet on the ground. Some people would love that. Lord, I don't have a chemotherapy appointment today. If you never did anything else for me, we'll count that a win. Lord, I live in America, one of the greatest nations on this earth, despite what anybody ever tells you. I live in America. I live in a land with motor cars and paved roads and stores that prepackage food for me. I don't have to ever worry about going hungry. I've got clean water in my tap. I've got machines that do washing, another machine that does drying. I've got world-class health care all right here. Are you kidding me? My life is awesome. I've got a family that loves me. I've got friends that love me. I've got this, I've got that. Wait, 10 times a day for 10 seconds, taking account for where you actually are. Next thing for your hands. 10 times a day for 10 seconds, gratitude for your now. Next thing, once a week, make sure you do something for someone who can do nothing in return for you. And here's what happens. 10 times a day for 10 seconds, gratitude for your now. Once a week, if you're going to look right or left, look left. But not to compare yourself. Look left and determine your life to make their life better. How can I make your life better? How can I make your life better? And when we're spending all of our energy thankful for our now and making other people's lives better, we won't have the energy to focus on people who have more than us, which, by the way, is less than 1% of the whole world's population. We can be set free from envy by 10 times a day for 10 seconds, gratitude for what's in our now, and once a week, something for someone who could do nothing in return for us. When we do that, we can break the power of envy in our life. Because here's the thing. If envy and jealousy are a habit of the heart, then so is the solution. Kindness and gratitude in the secret place of your imagination can set you free from envy, jealousy, comparison. I bless you, my brothers and sisters, to not just be saved on your way to heaven, but be set free from the things that are crouching at the door and desire to eat you alive. May we be people who actually take account for how good our life actually is. If God never did nothing else, our life is still outstanding. May we be set free from envy, jealousy, and comparison. Lord, I ask that you would set us free from that. Why don't you just right now underneath your breath, why don't we just practice what I just talked about? Take 15 seconds, and not in a way that points you out. Take 15, 20 seconds and begin to thank God out loud for what's in your now. It could sound something different for every person, but just right there underneath your breath, Lord, thanks for my family, thanks for my friends, thanks for my body, thanks for my hands that work, thanks for health, thanks for America, thanks for motor cars and paved roads and stores that prepackage food for me, thanks for clean water in our tap, thanks for plumbing, thanks for world-class health care. Lord, thanks for these things. And then right there underneath your breath, I want you to ask this question of the Lord. Lord, would you bring to my mind someone who can do nothing in return for me and move me to meet their need? Bring to my mind someone who can do nothing in return and move me to meet their need. Amen. Would you look this way? Thanks so much for letting me be part of your life. I love you very much. Be set free. Be set free. Grace and peace. God bless.